much. You always are out here. I don't want to say trying to defend the government or speaking on behalf of the government, including today, as late as today. And then we ask ourselves, is there anything left to ask? But certainly we can never miss out on something, especially the stories that we have carried this evening. Arrests that appear to be politically motivated. A majority of Kenyans would say that why is it that we seem to see some elements of double standards when we are taking up on certain leaders and perhaps overlooking those ones that are allied to the Kenya Kwanza government. What do you make of the arrest of Natembeya, Peter Salasya, and of course the allegations that we now have from the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua arguing that his life is in danger?
First and foremost, yes, my role is to defend the government. My work is to amplify, what government wants to speak about, what government pronounces itself as the mouth of the government.
Yeah.
And so we state government position, we defend government position, and we clarify or explain government position.
Just how easy has it been?
In order to offend, in order to deter, and in order to deflate those political nemesis who find it within their stride to really besmirch the image of the government. And it's very interesting because you see, government is very big and very wide. So it's a privileged position to speak on behalf of this broad-based government, Kenya Kwanza government, broad-based government, and to really explain positions with regards to what is happening. Yes.
And of course, as you get to respond to my question, then one would want to ask, how easy has it been for you to defend the Kenya Kwanza government, as most of the people, even those ones that were part of the government before and have exited to other quarters, argue that it becomes very difficult to defend this government day in, day out, because then it is not functioning as per their mandate. And when we're talking about their mandate, we're talking about the manifesto that they presented to the people of Kenya. The
government has done extremely well in fulfilling its mandate. That I can say without fear of doubt. Right. If, for example, tomorrow, the president is going to be issuing 1,080 houses to Kenyans who were living in squalid, conditions. People who are slum dwellers, now they are becoming homeowners. Mukuru, Riara village has been transformed into an estate. Absolutely amazing. You hear the testimony of one Bibiana Wambua speaking at how they couldn't go there because at night children would not have a way to move around because there was no electricity. They didn't have clean water. They didn't have, there was a lot of fire. But today, as we speak, these are homeowners. There's even another person called Osogo who says that he has not been able to own a home for the last 20 years. And we are talking about ownership of a home worth 640,000, but you're only paying rent to own at 3,494 shillings a month. This is very transformational. Right. When you look at, for example, the Hustler Fund. The Hustler Fund, we promised 50 billion. Now it has gone all the way to 70 billion. Over 25 million Kenyans have benefited, with nearly 8 million Kenyans who are return users. If you look at, for example, the issue of healthcare, over 25 million of us now Kenyans have registered under the Taifa Care. Sure. Okay. And so therefore, and people are benefiting. I found a gentleman called George Okwe from Dandora. Right. Who is giving us a testimony that he pays his 300 shillings. He's a painter. Okay. Yeah. And now he was, he broke his leg because of the nature of his job. And the Shah was able to pay for him, Chief was able to pay for him, 12,500. And when the wife, was able to get a bouncing baby boy, the same, medical insurance under the UHC program was able to pay 15,000. He had only to part with 200 bob. So when you talk about that government is not able to fulfill its promises, right, there has never been a government that has been intentional, that has been deliberate like this one.
Have you interacted with the economic survey, Mheshimiwa? And I will not pick the many things that you have highlighted, perhaps just one. For instance, the 2025 economic survey published by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics noted a decline in construction, including affordable housing projects, despite the government's focus on the affordable housing program. The number of residence units completed by the government halved to 1,655 in 2024. And perhaps just looking at the majority of aspects that have been touched by the economic survey, they paint a grim picture of the performance of the current government. And I want to trust that you have interacted with it. Are you not scared that it would sound like, it's a government where they just speak on one thing and they cram it and they go to the people and they sell that agenda all the way home, overlooking other critical matters of what is of their very own document, the manifesto, the constitution, the rule of law, and basically what is expected as to development in the country?
Let's start from where you've just left. The economic survey is a document that is done by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. And it has really spoken about the fact that the value chains in this country have really done very well because of our shift from subsidized consumption to subsidized production. And that is why the cost of living has gone down. And that is why our inflation has gone down to an all-time low. And that is why also we've been able, for example, to ensure that we have now our dollar reserves at 9.6 billion US dollars, that we can be able to cover our imports for 6 months without any single dollar. That is why our economy has moved to the third strongest in sub-Saharan Africa, ahead of Ethiopia and Angola, the sixth in the whole of Africa. That is why in the 2023-2024, 2 years in a row, we have been able to receive the highest number of startup capital. 2023, $800 million. 2024, $638 million, ahead of countries like South Africa and Egypt. That is why, as we speak currently, we've been able, for example, to revitalize the sugar industry. That is why, for example, the coffee now is going up to 148 shillings per kilo. And that is why you find people now in Trans Nzoia and Uasin Gishu are now going back into, are actually taking up coffee farming, So when you talk about that things are not working, really my take is that yes, we took a country that was really run down, a country that was full of debt, because we are paying a lot of debt, over 1.8 trillion shillings we are paying in debt. But then we've been able to stabilize the economy. Now things are better, you see? And they can only get better. When you talk about affordable housing, what kind of houses are we saying when we have over 700,000 houses that are being at different stages of either design or construction? Right now we're talking about 250,000 jobs created under the construction industry. 139,000 houses are being constructed. Now at Mukuru, we are constructing 13,248 houses. Bed sitters, studios, 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms. And I mean, when you talk about, it takes time to mature. Remember, some of these projects, people had to go to court and they delayed them, including Taifa Care, including the housing levy. It's now that then the program is starting and we've been able, for example, to expend over 20 billion shillings in that program. So when you talk about the economic survey, you also must look at the year.
The positives are there.
But right now, whatever painful decisions that we made, now we can see clearly there is maturity.
What continues to defeat that argument of we took over a government that was run down is the fact that, again, a majority of you were part of that, of the previous regime. But that aside, if the government is performing as good as you may argue, why is it that you seem to be disturbed by political rhetorics? Why is it that you seem to be disturbed by the voices that perhaps argue otherwise, contrary to what it is that you would want to sell to Kenyans? They say that development in a huge way sells itself. If really there's anything to show, don't you think you really don't even have to make a lot of noise about it?
Thank you. Do you talk about the price of unga? I know.
Well, I do. What makes you say that I don't?
You don't, because
I do.
I don't hear many Kenyans talking about unga. When you talk about coffee, are you not seeing the return of coffee millionaires? When you talk about the issue of sugarcane, are we not talking about 600 million now paid to factory workers who have heretofore never been paid? We even had a sugarcane bonus being distributed to the people of Western Kenya who grow sugar. When you talk about my friend, a certain friend of mine who is a pastor, let me not mention her real name, who unfortunately lost her dear sister. But then the last rights were paid, the last cost, sorry, were paid by Shah over Taifa Care, over 600,000. Those are the things that are working. So people really are speaking. What we are having is overtones of those political detractors. And that is why, as a government, we know very well that when you start inciting Kenyans into political violence, threatening the peace and stability of the country, if you don't have security, it therefore means you cannot be able to govern the country.
All right, I wanted to ask, why is it that it's a big deal when they have all this rhetorics going on? But now that you bring that up, let's narrow it down, not really to discussing personas, but basically what it is that the former deputy president argues, perhaps a Kenyan that you do not want to overlook because of the kind of office he's held at some point in time. He makes, allegations, or perhaps he is worried that his life is in danger. I remember when we were carrying that story, I saw you laughing. I don't want to say sarcastically. I want you to tell us why you think that maybe his statements were misplaced. Don't you think as government you are treating this with a bit of levity, which could cost us in the long run?
No, let's not go that direction. And don't get yourself also involved in that.
All right.
Because
don't you think Kenyans would want to have answers
the
to
government
that?
is there to maintain law and order.
Right.
Right? The government will only come to you if you are not able to account for your actions. For example, if you're a corrupt leader, you cannot explain your wealth. If you are an inciter and you are also seeking, political mileage using very outlandish, by declaring very outlandish statements, when you talk about biological weapons, honestly, sincerely, it's laughable. That's the truth. It is actually laughable. Why? For what reason? Why would the government be interested in that? So really, but now you see some people have launched a new political party. They must also now create a momentum around it and create razzmatazz and drama. And people are very easily hoodwinked by that. The government is in no way in that business. We want to protect the life of every other Kenyan. And if you are a law-abiding citizen, I think you have no cause to worry. You yourself have not been disturbed. It doesn't matter, the position that anyone holds in society. So these are just mere allegations that are very highly insightful, that are, to stoke emotions, to attain a certain political narrative.
Okay.
And so therefore, they should be dismissed with the contempt they deserve. Because honestly, why would we even be concerned as a government to do so?
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we taking activism to the regional level, as would be argued by the president of Tanzania, who says walishaharibu kwao, walishavuruga kwao, wasije kuvuruga kwetu? Do you think Kenya imevurugika kiasi hicho?
Mwanzo ni vizuri kusema kwamba kuna soko huria la Afrika Mashariki.
Kweli.
Na sisi kama jumuiya tunaenzi kwamba mwenyekiti wa sasa ni sio mwingine bali ni Rais William Samoei Ruto.
Ndio. Rais
wa kutajika ambaye ana tajriba kubwa ya uongozi. Na sasa hivi tumeweza kusema kwamba Wakenya wote wanaweza kusafiri, na hata hapa nchini kuna watu kutoka katika nchi mbalimbali, hata wengine kutoka Warundi wamekuja hapa Burundi na kadhalika, ambao wanafanya kazi tu za kawaida, kazi za sulubu. Lakini ni jukumu la nchi awaye yote katika jumuiya imehifadhi nafasi ya kusema kwamba wewe mwenyewe unafaa kuingia haufai kuingia, kutokana pengine na wosia, kutokana na ujasusi wowote ambao wameweza kufanya kuonekana kana kwamba wewe unafaa kwenda katika nchi ile. Hilo ni jambo ambalo hiyo serikali imeweza kuamua. Na si mwingine ambaye ameweza kutaja sera hiyo, bali ni rais mwenyewe wa Tanzania, Samia Suluhu. Kwa hiyo hilo sio jambo ambalo sisi tunaweza kuingilia, kwa sababu kuna Wakenya wengi wanasafiri wa tabaka mbalimbali, wa nyanja mbalimbali, viongozi wa ngazi hata za juu za serikali na pia katika upinzani.
Jumuiya ya Afrika Mashariki, watu wanazungumzia kwamba kuna umuhimu, or there is an importance of us ensuring that there is that integration and that we should move free across our borders. I mean, at least that declared by our very own leaders. Of course, Tanzania itself hosting or housing the main office of the East African Community. Don't you think that we have cause to worry as to how things are projecting?
Not at all. We have no cause to worry, because Tanzania has got its own, democracy. Tanzania has a way of doing things the way they want to do it.
Okay.
We also do it differently, and also so is Tanzania, so is Somalia, so is South Sudan, so is Congo DRC, so is Rwanda and Burundi. So we cannot say that we will prescribe to them how they should superintend of their own internal affairs. and they reserve the right to deny or admit anyone according to whatever information they have with regard to that person or persons.
Therefore, it is okay that when Kizza Besigye lands in Kenya, and of course he's abducted, it is okay for Maria Surungi to come in Kenya, and we have cases of abductions. It is okay for Martha Karua, a prominent leader in the East African community, to proceed to this other side, and she is actually detained and even deported, as well as the former CJ, and also the same happening in Uganda across the continent, or perhaps across the East African community. I get your response on that shortly, but now the High Court has issued conservatory orders blocking the National Assembly from vetting and approving President William Ruto's nominees to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC. Justice